Good afternoon, welcome to the latest episode of Freeworld News. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about Brexit. Now, from watching the last episode, and from watching the news and various media sources the last couple of weeks, David Cameron, our Prime Minister, has been out there in Brussels trying to negotiate a deal which gives the UK more regional powers in terms of devolution, but also stays the same trade relations which exist in terms of giving the UK a strong economic say in what's happening within their own economy rather than things being dictated from in Brussels. This is what Brexit's about. Now, we also mentioned in the last episode that the main factor on people's minds with regard to Brexit is migration, and how Barclays released a report saying how migration seems to be one of the most, probably the most important factor in why people would vote to leave the EU. Now we're going to start off by talking a bit about currency in this episode with relation to what's happening in Brexit. I'm going to ask you what the deal is with that.
Well, firstly, the currency. The currency was affected last week because of some dollar weakness. The dollar weakness arose out of the Fed statements, which indicated that they weren't in a hurry to do any further increase of the interest rate. We saw the euro go up to over 1.11. It's actually 1.1175 at the moment. And we saw sterling go up to about 146.50 at one point. So that was quite a big move, because behind all this, there's also the feeling that the Fed would quite like a weak dollar, because to stimulate exports from America. So that's what happened. But since then, Brexit has occupied very much the middle of the picture. We're seeing some consideration now about what would happen if we actually left. Goldman Sachs say that would knock 4% off the total GDP, which is an incredibly weakening factor. And this morning in the Times, see that the bank has built up a 98 billion war chest so far to basically buy sterling back, because they think that if there is a Brexit, the pound will drop maybe up to 20%. This would be catastrophic. It's particularly catastrophic for our business, which is buying dollar-traded commodities, which would mean that everything that we had would go up 20% overnight, right? So we've got a similar problem all the way around. If you think of all the contracts, everything, the main commodities in the world, all the commodities are traded in dollars. So that would mean like everything going up 20%. To prevent that, the bank would do its very best, and that's why it needs this war chest. It would buy back sterling, sell its reserves of dollar. Well, the last time this happened was when we were in this kind of position was 1992, where Britain made an abortive attempt to enter the euro through what was called the EMS snake.
Was this related to Black Wednesday? Or?
That was it. That was exactly it. I was watching that on the box. I just started off, and as the current Chancellor made his speech, the interest rate was going up all the time, because that's the other mechanism they have to strengthen the currency. It got to 14%. As Lamont was speaking. And I had a couple of people who phoned me up and said, my haulier phoned me up at that time and said, Sanjay, I'm gone, I'm finished, that's it, I'm out. So, it's catastrophic. And the guy who spotted all this before it happened, and who made heavy bets against the pound, was of course George Soros. And George Soros has written a book about the possible end of the EC, and I've read that book about 3 years ago. And events are pretty much coming to pass. This is basically because the sovereignty issue was never properly set up, and this is actually what it is. It's about the right to control your own borders within the EC. you know, the cracks in the EC are getting bigger and bigger, and you know, there's no doubt, we discussed in the last thing, that the Brexit vote will be purely about migrants and immigration controls.
Sure.
And you know, this is in stark contrast with the primary function of the EC, which is to prevent another European world war. So you know, a lot
so
of
it's
stuff
almost
coming.
like the opposite of collectivity and corporatism, which is what the EU is based upon.
Yeah, we're all
Which is
talking about
individualism
separatism,
and
yeah.
division and things like that.
That's
so it's
right.
like completely different mentality.
Yeah,
These
that's right.
member states
That's right.
are
And the thing is, it gets votes.
Yeah.
It gets votes when you say that
It's
we
politically
want.
expedient.
Yeah, because you can. Yeah, it's very politically expedient. You can just point and say, look at these Romanians, look at these whatever Albanians. So
Sure, that's
So,
interesting how all these socio-economic factors such as migration and the movement of peoples is so intricately related to currency and other economic. And
well, the currency is just a kind of measure of perception of economies. Behind all of this is the spectre of deflation, where basically the GDP starts inching down. Things cost less and less and less every day, so people don't have jobs to make those things because people don't buy stuff when it gets cheaper every day. I don't understand it. It seems to me like a sort of bliss that things get cheaper every day, but the real face of it is mass unemployment. So
mass unemployment.
Mass unemployment, 20% reduction in the
It's just terrible,
in the pound because of in my view, a complete misunderstanding of the migrants issue.
All right. Okay. Well, that's really interesting. and who would have thought, you know, in your economics classroom at high school, that migration would be such a leading cause for these kind of economic problems? You would have thought that.
Well, basically, the migrants are maybe the way out of deflation. These are people who haven't got stuff, and they will work hard to get that stuff.
Yeah, exactly, right. So
and that's your GDP going up,
Sure.
but it's not seen that way.
Right. So also, it's Chinese New Year today, so we want to wish all our Chinese customers and suppliers and stakeholders a happy New Year. I hope it was a good one. What are your views on how the Chinese market's framing up?
Well, it's quite interesting because the Chinese New Year is a period of high consumption, so we see now a lot of gifts being given in China, etc. On the run up to it, you have the sales basically that drive it. It's like their Christmas, I suppose, but we haven't seen that buzz in China.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that buzz in China. We haven't seen big sales of pine nuts and goji berries, these kind of products. Certainly not much imported product because of controls over effectively bribery. So a bit glum on that front. It's also the time when most private lenders, there's a big system of private lending in China, want to see their money back. So if I lent you, say, $100,000, you're a trader to finance your pine nut business or something like this. This is the time of year you have to come back to me and show me the $100,000, and then I can make a decision about whether to lend it back to you again. So it's the end of the financial cycle. So we see a lot of speculations getting resolved at this time.
Yeah. When you say lend it back, do you mean not take it back and continue?
No, that's the way. That's the way the lending works. You have to bring it back, show it to the guy, and he has the option of taking it and not lending it back to you again, or lending it back to you again, right? So
renewing the lease.
Well, you just got to show him that you got the money, because and he will.
Right,
You've got to take your loans end on.
There's a lot of private lenders in China.
There's a lot of private lenders in China. Yeah.
Is that a cultural thing? Or does it just work for them?
It just works mainly because some people in China and some people in India have a lot of untaxed income.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay.
Which is also related to the gap between the rich
So
and the
this
poor
is
then.
black money. Yeah.
Black money. Okay. Don't want to end on that negative black money, so I'll just say Happy Chinese New Year again, and I hope you have a good week. Tune into a report from Adam later on today or tomorrow. We'll let you know.
It'll be out today.
We'll be out today on, I think it's hazelnuts.
Hazels and flames.
Okay, thank you very much.